What's happening, guys, and welcome back to another Sunday Scan. We are happy to have Emil join us once again. Emil, good to have you back. How have you been?
Thanks for having me. All good, man.
Great.
For the next week.
Yeah. So we were chatting a little bit before we started recording, and we were talking about how, the cycle in small caps has changed over the last couple of weeks. And I think I'm starting to see a couple other cycles change, like possibly some of the Ethereum names and Ethereum. I think there's been a cycle change in that, and then maybe with a few other names. So could you just tell us a little bit about, how are you reading some of these cycle changes, or what have you really been thinking about the market recently? Which pockets are working, which pockets are not?
Yeah, well, from a short seller perspective, which it's used to short small caps, it's quite been difficult in the past 2 weeks, I would say. We had a lot of small caps with a lot of volume, and that being the warning sign or the biggest red flag. So for instance, we had stocks with small float under 5 million shares that traded even 100 million in pre-market. So that was a telling for sort of staying away. I cannot say myself I stood away, but I fought with this with a few of them, and been quite difficult at the time. But what I've been trying, and also always emphasize on trying to manage the risk and keep the losses in check, not to let them slipping through fingers. And we had a few of the names that we had this week, like I said, with huge volume that been difficult to trade. One of them was XPON that traded a lot of volume, and they've been soaking, and the volume was churning until late in the morning, towards 11 a.m. when usually the shorts give up, and then just then it was the backside, and ended up with a beautiful warrants inducement, and it was that, and obviously those who started to short early and they've been worn out cannot be more frustrated with something that's seeing such behavior and giving up when everybody it's done, and then ended up with that offering. Now, also we had TRIB, TRAB, which was pretty resilient, and after a big gap started to soak and based and squeeze higher. Also, we had BSLK, which had a similar thing and squeezed. I think actually the BSLK was one of the few that squeezed like 500% this week out of nowhere, and like I said, it's personally, it's hard for me to, you have all these stocks that they are very poor financially. They either, they can do an offering anytime, or things like that. And then you see this big volume, they keep churning, and they squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. And it's easy it's easy for a short seller or someone who looks for, to short or to take advantage of the drop of the stock. But, if you find in a situation where you fight with the stock, it's kind of getting difficult, because it's just going higher and higher and higher. So that's why you have to manage the risk. And like I said, it's hard to flip this buyer. Personally, it's a personal thing. I mean, for me, so I would rather, cut it and wait for a better setup, or at least where the risk reward it's in my favor, and then try again, rather than being there and getting squeezed over and over. Then on the other side, I'm willing to leave that go away, because I'm not sure when the plug is going to be pulled out, and it's going to do something ridiculous. So that's my struggle, I would say. So yeah, we had a lot of big volume stocks this week that been ballistic, and been very difficult environment from a I mean, for a short seller or someone who is looking to short stocks that they have skeletons in their closet. So yeah, that's pretty much
Yeah.
what I did this week.
Yeah, and then great note about the volume on those small caps. So as someone like I'll obviously go into small caps usually when there's a hot cycle and when there's a ton of volume. And that's one of the first things that I look for if I'm looking for squeezes or things like that. And I've talked about this a bit before, but really the volume, the float, and then the float rotation. So if something has 2-3 million float and it's doing 200-300 million volume, the amount of volume, the amount of float rotation, and float rotation is just the volume compared to the float. When it's so high like that, the behavior is much different. So when you have a lower float stock and you have a decent amount of volume, usually there's one capitulation. It goes up, clears everyone out, and then either the company's tapping an ATM or something, and that's kind of the classic fade back down. But the reason why I like the super high float rotation names is because the squeeze is not one squeeze, it's a bunch of small squeezes connected like by a chain. And every time the float rotates over, it's just taking old people out and bringing new people in, and it's just a constant cycle until there's a real capitulation. So like XPON, or one of those that you brought up, what I like to do is if I see them with that high float rotation, if they're having trappy action where it looks like they're going to fade and they get saved and then they eventually kind of grind up and go, what I like to do is I like to wait for a huge capitulation before I get really hands off on the long side. And one of the ways that I do that is if I'm using 2-minute, 3-minute charts or candlesticks, when the squeeze is actually happening, what you almost notice, or what I almost notice, is that those candlesticks will just stack one on top of the other. And so it shows a steady supply demand imbalance. And when you have those, chained together, you can usually wait until there's massive extension compared to the relative action. And then you can see, after that failed, after everyone was cleared out. So kind of like waiting for those giant capitulations as opposed to a normal, clear out off the open. When you have massive volume, that's a big difference that I see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I'm not comfortable going along with this, but that's definitely not the smartest way to think. So, yeah, I take that with a grain of salt. But yes, usually when I'm trading this is always looking for. So, for instance, I'm looking to short something on these small caps. I'm looking at those levels that I'm interested in, and then it's always when the volume is big, there is always, I mean, most likely, or most of the time, not necessarily always, but most of the time it's going to be, another sort of liquidity trap. So, and that's why, for me personally, that's what it works. And if you have a liquidity event and then the price is starting to stop and you try to build a position but then reclaims again, then usually you have to be careful with this and wait until it's going to give another chance to have a better risk reward. It's counterintuitive to try to short those breakouts, which in small caps many times are just liquidity grab, and then this stuffy action occur, and then it's a flip in a bias. So yeah, this along with tape can give you a good clue. And even what you said with when you see the candles stacking and then you see a speed up in price, usually it's a sign to spot the blow off or a reversal at some stage. But yeah, that's definitely something to pay attention at.
Yeah. The bigger the volume, the bigger the capitulation needs to be before the setup eventually ends. We even saw that with some of the overnight names that ran, like that ATNF. That was a big Ethereum one, and had the volume, had the thesis, the theme, everything like that. But it really took a huge capitulation for that to finish, as opposed to a smaller one and clear that out. And then we were also talking about. So you also, swing trade, you're doing options, everything like that. And the swing trades have been going, super well. You had some great options trades the last week. So is that something that, when small caps are being, kind of a pain, you just lean more into swings and options? Or how do you kind of go about, adjusting to market conditions?
No, well, this is a funny. I mean, it's a good question, but I just have a funny answer because usually I'm going with the pain along, you know. And even though I have this, I mean, I manage a long-term account and also a swing account, and but I'm like the drunk guy who comes back to the bar, you know. It's always, and I always end up in a small cap pool. So yeah, I'm going both. I'm trying to manage both because when I'm seeing, usually I try to go where the opportunity lies, and obviously not always I'm right, and I'm so used with these small caps and try, you know, to squeeze as much as I can from them. But like I said, sometimes when the cycle is hard and strong, I'm sorry, the market gives you a hard time. So no, I had few. So just to answer to your question, it's I'm you know, swing trading, it's much easier to manage. I mean, also, I mean, uh, swing trading, as you know, it's about nail and bail because you are going to have more losses. I mean, until you have one that is starting to work for you, and once you accept that, it's fine. On the other hand, on small caps, the better you know the setups, it's a more risk reward. But then those that do not work, I mean, it's a win rate. It's a bigger win rate. That's what I wanted to say. But those that do not work can compound and ruin the P&L. But on the other hand, on swings, it's the win rate is smaller. But those that work in the background are just going to do the work for you at the end of the, you know, year or whatever the time frame is. So yeah, I try to do them both. Like you said, I had few good swings. One of them was Apple. I had an option here. Actually, I had a bull call spread on this one, which worked out nicely. I was looking at the time for a breakout. I really like the structure that you know, was building up here, despite the fact that it was under 200 SMA. To me, that was something that after the big drop, we had this structure that, you know, we had these higher lows, and then it was tightening the range. So I was going for mostly a breakout. I thought that okay, it might have some legs, and still at this day, I think it's going to have maybe needs few more days or even weeks to consolidate a little bit above 200 SMA. And I'm expecting to see more upwards, but still paying attention to this level. To me, this is an important level because as you can see here, had this type of structure also, which failed at the time, and now it's going to reclaim it. So in order to see some strength or to consider it for a long, I would really like to see some build up here into this area, and then we shall see how it's going to behave here. But if it's just going to push against this level, I'm expecting to see at least some profit taking. So that's something to take in consideration. This is similar at the way I'm looking at Roblox. Roblox, oops, I have some drawing here, but either way, the way I'm looking at Roblox right now, since we had a gap down here on Friday, I would not short it here, but that's definitely a trend break here, and also this base broken under. I would like, and also went under this low here. So there are few, for me, this is a trigger short, but I wouldn't just enter here because as you can see on a small time frame, this is no man's land here. And in order to have some sort of an educated risk, I would really like to see it pushing against this level, which is 127 ish. I am going to be happy with any push towards 125 and then see how it's going to behave at that level. So maybe if we are going to have 1 or 2 more days or 3 more days or of grindy action, I would take a short here. risking pretty much 136. I'm expecting to see this one under 100 in the next few weeks. So this is the name I'm watching for short. But now to go back to Apple idea and the few trades that I had long, I just wanted to make a comparison between this setup and that one, which is similar in some way. First Solar, it's one of the names that I had it long through options, and I still have some. I like the way it was building up into this area. Was pretty choppy, but take a look at this breakout, which took place on Friday, and also at the volume. Volume, it's pretty good. So I'm expecting to see more continuation. Either way, any build up above this level, or even if there are going to be any, slightly pullbacks, I'm interested to add more now that I have this confirmation, and I'm expecting to see more upwards. Now, with few other names that I'm watching in the solar sector, if this First Solar, which is a major player in solars, I'm going EP and H. It's one name that I like it. This is pretty beat up chart, and this might be considered a lagger, but since the volume is pretty big here, I would like to see how it's going to behave in the next few days, if it's going to put a base. If it does, and First Solar it's going to build up, then I might consider for long, risk would be pretty much low of this swing, which is around 30. So if it's going to go sideways, I'm going to be interested. Run, it's another name I'm watching from solar sector. It's similar with First Solar, also broke out here, big volume. I'm going to watch it for I don't have any position here, but it's going to be on radar for next week. We shall see if it's going to give some dips or it's going to build up above. That's something that I'm interested in. So I'm going to watch for. There are a few names, despite the fact that indices are a little bit in limbo, but still there are a few decent setups that might have some legs in the next few weeks. So we shall see.
Excellent. Yeah. And just a reminder to everyone that none of this is financial advice, and we are not financial advisors. It's all for informational and educational purposes. Those are some great watches. And I have some similar thoughts. Apple had that nice breakout. It had a good piece of news. Basically, as they do more investment in the US, they were getting some protection from tariffs, and that was like a big overhang for the stock. And then also with the solar sector that you mentioned, that had news on Friday, basically that the Treasury Department was, reclassifying some like the solar tax credits. So, some of those things spill over into the fundamentals of them. And so, a big catalyst like that can definitely cause, a push. And like you said, confirming with the volume can be a big tell for a lot of those names. So I'll go through a few of my thoughts on, some of the names that we've been seeing running, and then also some things in the crypto sector that I think could spill over into the regular market. So ETH, this is, it tracks Ethereum, and Ethereum's really been like the big, theme in the current market. You have the Ethereum treasury plays that have been, in play for a while, SBET, BMNR, that ATNF, and some of those other ones. But I think we're getting to a point where, just like we were talking about before, when you see these big like cycles, and then you see like a very tight supply demand imbalance where you see these candles stacking one on top of the other, and there's really not a whole lot of pullback along the way. That is a supply demand imbalance. And this is from all the Ethereum treasury companies buying Ethereum with, the money that they're raising in the capital markets, just kind of going over to the crypto markets and buying that. So now that you see a break in some of that, I think that you could have a pretty good mean reversion trade in Ethereum. I think it already started on Friday, but what I'm curious to see is if it can break low enough to, maybe retest some of these levels down here. And so for Ethereum itself, maybe getting back into that low, $4,000 range, as opposed to, 4,500 or whatever it's at right now. It was as high as I think 4,700. So once you see a crack starting to kind of emerge there, In crypto, especially, you can have these big mean reversion trades because there's so much leverage. But a lot of it just depends. Are the companies just going to step in and keep buying it up? Or are they going to take a little bit of a break? Is it a cycle change? And can this actually mean revert? So ETHA will be on watch for me for puts into next week. If we can have that, big mean reversion trade, I think we could get a nice flush down there. And then, of course, SBET and BMNR will likely follow. And I mentioned this last week, is during these cycles, they basically go through these periods where they have, let's say it's a $6 or $7 billion market cap, and they're raising money. Maybe they have 5 billion in Ethereum, and then they give updates of, okay, now we raised and we have 6 billion. So it kind of just it's these fluctuations around what is it trading in a premium to NAV. And if the cycle's hot, that premium expands. If that cycle turns or mean reverts, it gets closer to NAV. So really just following the price of Ethereum for that. JOBY, nice big base here, looking almost like a big head and shoulders pattern. And if this has a big failed follow through, you can see the neckline down here. We can break through those levels, and then that starts to flip to resistance instead of support. This could be a sign of a cycle change, and that could have a nice big mean reversion trade down there too. And this has options and then equity. So if people are interested in maybe looking for a fade there, there's definitely some opportunity. AMAT. So this had a big gap down on earnings, and this is just like we talk about with like names that are holding really well after earnings. So comparing this to like a where is it? eBay. So eBay had this big earnings gap here, and it held really well. It flagged, and then it breaks out. So you can see the volume confirms. It's holding that big move, and then consolidates, and then has the next leg. It's like the opposite with something like AMAT, where it has a big down move on earnings, and then basically it can hold those levels, maybe consolidate. You can see the volume confirm, and then break down for the next leg. So those are a couple names that I have on watch. And then BE, this has been a great one. It's been on watch for a while, multiple Sunday scans, and breaking out as it kind of joined the the AI power sector. And I think that this will have a break of all-time highs and continuation as long as the market stays fairly hot. So those are the main ones. And then I'll watch the solar sector as well with Emil. But any thoughts on any of those, Emil?
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, like I said, I'm watching solars. I also like biosector. We have LABU. It's something that I'm watching for a bounce. Obviously, this is an ETF, but I like the way it's building up here. So we might see some follow through. It's not necessarily a very clear setup, but I'm expecting to see more upside from it. We shall see. NTRA, same thing, building up nicely here. What else? GILD, it's another name that I have in mind that might, so far rejected highs, but we shall see if it's going to build up here. And then it's going to push higher or not. What else? BIBB, again, similar type of setup, and AB, AB, I think ABC up. Yeah, that's one. I like the fact that it's going sideways and it's building up here. We shall see if we'll manage to break out this. I write this narrow range here. We shall see if it's going to have some legs, but might help if the sector is going to heat up. So this is not necessarily something that it's pretty hot right now, but looks like might hit up or fire up at some stage, and if so, I'm going to keep an eye on them. There are also, I think, the quantum names are still looking good. RGTI, nice base here. I mean, this chart, it's pretty textbook so far. We shall see if we manage to break out. Yeah, Friday had a pullback, but in a picture, it's this setup. It's still looking great. QBTS. Oops. Yeah, QBTS, same thing. We shall see if it's going to do something here. What else? QBT. I mean, IONQ, one of the major players. So we shall see. They go sideways. I think there is a good chance to to hold. I mean, there were a lot of negative voices that it's quantum thingy. It's pretty much far out, but still here we are. These things are building up. So if they are going to tighten up the range and then it's going to, the volume it's going to be there, I won't be shy to long these. Also, there are a few other names that mention worth mentioning. It's UUU. I like the way it's building up here. We shall see if it's going to be any follow through. So that's a pretty nice base here. Also building up above these levels. So I'm looking for some follow through here. SoFi, it's one of the names that I have in my long term, and it's still building up nicely here, and Friday had a pretty nice bounce. So I'm expecting to see more follow through from this name. At least risk reward wise, it's looking pretty decent in my book. Pony, Pony. It's another name that it's it's pretty choppy. So whoever wants to trade this one, you have to expect to see it pretty much all over the place. But I think a good risk would be 1250, and with that in mind, let it work. I think there is a big chance to see some crazy thing out of this one. So I'm keeping an eye on it. AEO, same thing here. Nice build up, a lot of hype and around this name lately, but I really like the way it's building up here and it's still holding. So if the volume is going to kick in at any given stage, I'm going to be interested in getting a long trade. And also there are a few other names like UNH, which had pretty good numbers on earnings. As you can see, the volume. This might be a shift in the tape. Also seen that Berkshire Hathaway took a chunk in it. So I'm going to treat this one more or less from a long perspective. And as long as it's going to stay above these levels, and I would really like to see some dips maybe in the next few days. And then some sort of build up, I would love to take a long position and swing it over. So I'm looking from a swing perspective here. And same thing goes to NU. Nice structure here. It's pretty loose. That's a pretty loose setup because it's as you can see, it's going all over the place. We had earnings, pretty decent numbers, but some sort of sell off. But still, if we manage to find some demand at any given stage, I'm going to be interested and looking for a breakout pretty much of this area, and looking to hold it for a few. Think this name can do a nice run up into the end of the year. So that's pretty much what I'm having and what I'm going to watch for next week. And whatever the small cap is going to give us.
It'll pull you back in. What's running. Well, great watches there. Great thoughts on the market as a whole. And hopefully, we're going to have some solid action in the week ahead. I know that there's a few other things like Trump is going to announce some of the tariff levels on some of the things like chips, and I think some of the commodities as well. So we could get some surprise moves there. And so having a couple of go-to names if the news is good, and then a couple of names if the news is bad. So that's always helpful. But Emil, thank you for being on Sunday Scan, and we'll chat more in the week ahead in IU.
Yeah, absolutely. Catch you there.
Sounds good. Thank you everyone for watching. If you want to trade live alongside me and other members of the Investors Underground community, then check out investorsunderground.com to see if becoming a member is the right decision for you. They have some of the best technology and a lot of great members there, all looking to help other people improve their trading. And also check out Investors Underground content on YouTube and Twitter. Thank you.